Join us now, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Tokyo on Fire. Today is June 6, 2017. This is our segment of Inside Baseball, where we go deep into one issue of contemporary political importance. My co-host here is Michael Cucek.
You can put the bat down.
Thank you, Michael. It's always good to have you here.
It's great to be here.
We haven't been talking together for a while, maybe 3-4 weeks, right?
A long time has passed.
The last time we talked, the Moritomo Gakuen scandal was kind of winding down. And since that time, another scandal has come up.
Yeah, the Kake Education, another scholastic organization. And this one's much closer to the Prime Minister and much hotter than the Moritomo Gakuen, which we thought was pretty much on fire as it was.
So what is it with these schools? What is the nexus of schools and political funding and doing favors? Why is there money involved there? How is anybody going to benefit from that?
It's really a good question, because when you get down to it, in terms of political corruption, this is really small potatoes. And it usually involves just the transfer of government land for free to some organization, and that land wouldn't have been developed anyway. Or it would have been developed and the government would have received a small amount of money. Nevertheless, Mr. Abe, in two scandals in a row, is somehow involved with the building of new schools. Now, that should be a red flag starting off right from the beginning, because we have a decreasing number of students, a decreasing number of children. Why would there be a need for new schools, new elementary schools, and in this case, a new veterinary college?
Bow wow.
Bow wow. No veterinary department or college has been opened in over 52 years. And there are 16 of them nationwide. And suddenly, this brand new science university is going to have its veterinary college. And it's going to be built inside one of the government's special economic zones.
Right.
And that's pretty suspicious looking starting off from the beginning, because once this place is built and staffed, that will increase by 20% the number of university professors teaching veterinary science. And at the same time, the number of animals, domestic animals, in Japan is shrinking. So what is this for? Who would this be built for? And then we find out it's built for a friend of Abe.
Right. I think domestic animals should start reproducing more frequently.
Well, maybe we can get some daycare centers for them or something like that.
We don't want immigration to get involved in that.
No, we don't want immigration. We don't want those foreign animals coming in. No, but seriously, the number of dogs that people have kept in just the last 5 years, that number has dropped by 2 million nationwide, according to pet food makers, that there are just fewer and fewer animals, and that's not taking into account farm animals, which are also more and more farmers are getting out. And so we have fewer cattle, we have fewer beef cattle, fewer milk cattle, fewer pigs. So why do we need a new college? And it turns out that this is a pet project of Mr. Kake, who is a very close friend. In fact, we have this famous photograph now of him with a glass of white wine and Mr. Abe with a glass of white wine, with the smirkiest, smuggest smirk that he can put on, with, here I am, here we are, rich people, and there are two others there in the photograph. That just reeks of wealth and privilege.
Fake news.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think, so what? I mean, his wife took that picture. They were clowning around. They're good friends. They've been friends for, 30, 40 years?
Yeah, but okay. You're already in trouble with they didn't know that they were going to be in trouble in terms of the Moritomo Gakuen scandal, which was her scandal.
Right.
And
must be interesting dinner conversation at the Abe household.
It must be very good. Now you know how it feels is probably the way what she says now over dinner. Now you know what it means to be the person who's in the photograph.
Yeah.
But seriously, they've become enwrapped in these very, very shady deals involving large-scale projects, and that are basically for the glory of the individuals involved, that are not really economic. And we can see that, look, if you look at it, okay, maybe they're too small potatoes.
They are small potatoes, and 52 years, why not have a state-of-art veterinary college here in Japan? I mean, it's The other guys don't want it to be there because they're making their money. They've made their investment. 52 years?
Okay, you can make that argument. But unfortunately, there are documents saying not that this is needed. And in fact, when the Education Ministry got the application, they said this is insufficient. There's no way
this ain't going to fly.
There are not going to be enough. There are, first of all, not enough professors in Japan to staff this place. Mm-hmm. There won't be students going there. And if there are no students going there, no one's going to want to be employed there. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a hopeless, snowballing disaster. But on that same application says, the Prime Minister's office really wants this, and they have the documentation of that. Now, those documents have had their address lines stripped out so that you don't know who leaked it and to how far it was distributed. And the government has desperately latched on to that, the fact that we don't know who it was from.
Yes, it's unsubstantiated.
These are unsubstantiated documents. And the first one came out in May the 17th. And the government immediately did an internal investigation, and just 2 days later, declared it to be impossible to determine whether or not the document was real. Unfortunately, the next week, the retired top bureaucrat of the Ministry of Education, who had been forcibly retired due to the Asen scandal, having to do with retirees being placed in cushy amakudai positions, which we talked about. He piped up and said, it's authentic, it's real.
When I was there.
I was there. And suddenly the entirety of the dark side of the pro-Abe group suddenly revealed itself. Yeah. And all kinds of publications came out with secret stories of him going to singles bars and paying young women. All of this, just this
character assassination.
Of vomiting out, just terrible thing. But he held his ground, and he has held his grounds for the couple of weeks that have passed since that time. In the meantime, a second document has come out, which was an internal email, again, with nothing on the top saying from who it came. And the government, in desperation, has said, well, since there are no addresses on this email, we're not going to track this down. And it's becoming very, very clear that the government is desperate. Yesterday, Suga, in subcommittee testimony, got so agitated.
He was agitated.
He knocked over the microphone.
Yes.
I mean, this is Mr. Cool, and he's clearly trying to hang on and is not doing a great job.
Right. Well, you can see the opposition. They are just baiting. They are just salivating at this opportunity because it is, once again, an opportunity for death at 1,000 cuts. You just keep going at them. And in the meantime, the rest of diet hearings can't proceed. And this really takes a lot of energy.
It takes a lot of energy, and some of the cuts are really sweet, Well, doesn't this come under the new conspiracy law? What the Prime Minister and everybody's doing? Oh, you just live for moments like that in the diet.
Right.
And this is looking really like the political class has lost the bureaucracy. And the bureaucrats, which have been so loyal to Abe, and they have to be because their personnel decisions are now handled directly by the Kante under new legislation that started in 2014. Somehow, Maekawa Kihei, the retired bureaucrat, he obviously got his retirement bonus and put it away, probably under the floorboards of his mother's house in a safe.
Let's Google that.
We'll see about that. I wouldn't put it into a bank where the government can find it.
Right.
But he seems to, he knows that under the Supreme Court has ruled that you cannot dock a person's retirement pay, their pension, as a punishment for disobedience and for undercutting the government. He knows that because that happened in the case against the teachers who wouldn't stand for the national anthem. And one of the things that the Supreme Court said is, yes, they broke the rules, but you cannot attack their pensions. So he's in the clean and in the clear. So he's free to take whatever position.
And he looks so calm and collected. He looks like a solid person. who is just giving testimony. He's not giving testimony.
They won't let him.
Right.
They won't let him into the Diet because he will talk.
Well, he's so busy going to these hostess clubs, though.
Oh yeah, that when you start
Isn't that ridiculous? I mean, that's a red flag. I mean, why would they? We know why they were attacking.
Well, then we know why, but because he was in charge of the education of children, and he would go to singles bars. It's not like us politicians who go to geisha affairs and have our mistresses, because we're sleazy, horrible people. But he's supposed to be a moral paragon. Yeah. That's a great line. And it can work in some instances, but it looks desperate.
It looks bad. But we should keep an eye on the Prime Minister's popularity rating, because even in the face of the Moritomo Gakuen scandal, his ratings didn't really dive.
And they probably won't dive because of this. First of all, because it's a cabinet rating. It's not on him personally. And secondly, it's still very hard for the DP to give a real sense that it could take over.
Right.
And that's basically what the cabinet support ratings mean nowadays. Because we know when those persons who are asked, why do you support the cabinet, are asked that question, the majority of the plurality of them, the largest group says, it's because we can't see anybody else.
Yes, right.
When that's the problem. It's not that his policies are all less popular than the actual cabinet rating, which is bizarre. The only thing that can explain it is that people see no alternative.
Let's get back to the scandal. Where's the beef on this? I mean, let's say they opened this school and they had the veterinary hospital going there, the school that was attached to the hospital, in fact. Where is somebody like the Prime Minister going to be getting money? Where is this largesse coming from that is the tit for the tat? And I don't think it's there.
Well, the money probably was up front in that these are the people who have helped him along,
right,
and have been supporters of him ideologically.
So
in the case of Moritomo Gakuen, clearly, they had the children, with their little fascist salutes saying, Mr. Abe, you must protect our country." These are 4, 5, 6-year-olds. Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Okay, so they have been offering that. In addition, you can look even at the maglev and the relationship between the former chairman, Kasai Yoshiyuki, and Abe. Kasai basically brought Abe back from Siberia and brought him back into the political world and got all kinds of right-wing corporate executives together in, you could call them cabals, that basically funded his return. And in return, the quid pro quo is suddenly this extremely expensive, extremely energy-intensive form of transportation that will be extremely difficult to build. You're going to have to basically build a tunnel from Shinagawa all the way to Nagoya. It's underground for 85% of the time. This immense project basically has to be backed up with a guarantee from the taxpayers. Well, Mr. Abe will gladly do that for his friend Yoshiyuki Kasai.
Well, nobody's had a complaint about that. I mean, there's been press reports about the controversy, but nobody has claimed that this is a scandal that even approaches what we're talking about with Kake.
Well, that's because each and every instance, it's always been associated with some kind of
economic development.
Of Japan in a weak position. But we don't have Japan in a weak position. The unemployment rate is at the lowest we've seen in a very, very long time. The ratio of number of jobs to a single job seeker is the highest it's been since the bubble era.
So wouldn't you agree then that it's the whole claim here is cronyism? You're doing for your friends what you don't do for everybody else. You push your ministries around so that they serve the benefits of your benefit factors and not the normal people. Isn't that the basis of the claim?
Yeah, and the thing is, structural corruption, where you help the people who elect you, your constituents in your district, or the corporations that have their headquarters, the construction companies in your district with some projects.
That's what you're supposed to do.
That's how the LDP has put together its Big Ten.
Right.
And, that's politics.
Right.
But this is different. These are not his voters. These are not people living in Yamaguchi District 1. These are his friends. And I think there's a real distinction there that I think that if the DP could make that and make that connection with the people saying, this has nothing to do with politics as it has been, this is something new, then we've got something to talk about.
What do you think? Tempest in the teapot?
I think it's going to be very tough because he put down his marker. Remember with Moritomo Gakuen, he said, if you can find something where I did something to make that happen, I will resign.
Right.
They didn't find it for Moritomo Gakuen. But here we have Kante members going to the ministry begging for this project, and we have documents saying this comes from the very highest levels.
Okay. Well, we don't know if there's blood on the water or not. Probably the result of this will turn up in the next 2 weeks or so. Stay tuned. We're going to continue to follow it. It's really critical for the Prime Minister.
He who breaks the rules goes back to the house of pain.